Well, good damn afternoon, Americans. I am Jericho Green. I'm here with you once again. Thank you for joining me. Occasionally there are topics that I don't know a lot about. So I need to get the pros in here. I need to get the specialists in here, the experts. Today is no different. My guest today is a man by the name of Guy Gotslak, originally from Israel, came here as a kid, went to UCLA, started companies. He did some work with a defense contractor. He started businesses. They've been acquired. He is experienced in cryptocurrency, the ETFs. He has a company he's partnered with, Colin Plume of Noble Gold Investments. His business is called My Digital Money. Without further ado, let's bring him in, the man, the myth, the legend, Guy Gotslak. Thank you very much, Guy.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Thanks for having me.
I hope it's one of the better ones you've ever had.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Thank you for being here, man. Thank you for your time. As I mentioned, you own a business. That means you run the business. So time is valuable. I thank you for spending some of it here with me and my audience. And cryptocurrency, ETFs, maybe to you, that's been around for a while, but to the average Joe Schmo, the layman, if you will, this is relatively new. In the last couple of years, it's been very hot in the headlines and in the news. The cryptocurrency itself, those around it, some made some mistakes with that, Mr. Bankman-Fried. So we've heard things about it, but I want you to break down as well as you can what that is, what that means, but more importantly, what it means to your business, My Digital Money.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What crypto means in general and Bitcoin, right? Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, my business. Let me just give a quick background. It's called My Digital Money. We're a self-trading platform where you can invest in cryptocurrency using your retirement account, your IRA, or standard account as well. So we really focus on long-term investing and making it easy for anyone, whether you have experience or not, whether you're tech savvy or not, to invest. So it's an easy to use platform, but there's also a US based customer service that you can call and actually get help signing up, ask any question about Bitcoin, crypto, how to trade. We're not advisors, but we definitely will tell you what people are doing and what the options are. So that's the whole focus that we have, is making it easy for anyone to get into it, because we do believe Bitcoin and crypto is going mainstream. It's only a matter of time. So we want to help it become mainstream, right, by reducing that barrier. So that's what we do. And we do it in a safe way, in a way that, well, first of all, even though you're not managing your own wallet, you don't need to know anything about that. It's still your assets, right? We partner with Equity Trust. It's a custodian that's been around since 1974. So they're highly regulated and in compliance. And the whole idea is, like, if we go bankrupt, they go bankrupt, the assets are still yours. We're not allowed to legally touch those assets. And, there's auditors that are regularly coming in and making sure that the assets match the books. So we can't do anything like what Sam Bankman-Fried did. That's the whole thing, right? It's like making people more comfortable to get into Bitcoin, right? And I'm sure your viewers know what Bitcoin is, but it's essentially, in my view, a way to safeguard against the devaluing dollar, against potential bank crashes, and it's basically a peer-to-peer way of exchanging money without a third party. So there's a lot of advantages to it, but it's something outside of the financial system, right? So you're not overprinting, right? Bitcoin doesn't have that problem where you can just print as much as you want. It's already baked in, like a fixed supply, right? So there's still Bitcoin being produced, but at a very limited rate, and there can only be 21 million ever to be produced, which is why you're guarded against the crazy inflation that we're seeing with the dollar now. Hopefully that's a good kind of answer, quick overview to your question.
Yeah, great. So the old institutions, the banks and stuff like that, the dollar that's been there, the precious metals, what do you say to people who might think, okay, I can go into a bank, or theoretically, because when you give your money to the bank, it's gone to a bunch of different people, but we can go into the bank and I can get my cash out in my hand, or there's a vault full of money, or with precious metals, like I can get the bars of gold and silver and stuff like that. I can hold them in my hand. I can have that in my safe or whatever. Or if you're like some stacked up in the garage next to your Corvette. But anyway, um, what do you say to people who think, well, it's digital, it's electronic? What if a hacker, what if some hacker gets in there and takes everything that I've invested? What are some of the safeguards, the things that make people feel, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go with Bitcoin. That's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very tough one to explain to people, right? That Bitcoin is the most secure network. And that, there's a ledger that they call it immutable, which means you can't tamper with it ever. Right. And that's very technical to be able to explain, why that is. But you can ask experts around the world, that it's basically safer than, a third party system, where you have, servers that are concentrated just for that company. Here you have servers all over the world. You have nodes across all countries, working together, and there's copies of this ledger everywhere. I mean, to be able to tamper with that is impossible. And so, with a bank, even though they have a lot of backups, I'm sure, and they have pretty robust systems, you could take them out much more easily. Um, but to back up and talk about banks, I mean, I think right now we're ways away from adopting black blockchain, right, in the
Mhm.
mainstream. So there's still a place for banks, right? I mean, everyone uses banks, all the stores. You have to have a bank account, to do a lot of the transactions out there, and so there's still a place for it, right? But I advocate for basically using Bitcoin as a way to store value for the future, right? So that you're outpacing inflation. Metals are great for preserving your wealth, but Bitcoin is good for outpacing inflation and being able to actually retire, right? Average American can't really retire. I mean, there was a study by CNBC that says, it takes $1 million to live 10 years after retirement. And that's assuming a
Wow.
regular inflation rate, which is not realistic because it's much higher than what they say it is. So, um, that's what I advocate for, is like being able to use that as a means to retire. And eventually, yes, I will advocate that, you replace banks with it, but we're just not there yet.
Oh man, $1 million will last 10 years. That is horrifying. Uh,
Yeah, tell me
a,
about
m-
it.
$1 million used to be a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's concerning. And then you look at problems with de-dollarization and how you look at, for example, the amount in reserves, the amount of USD and reserves, global reserves with IMF, and it's gone down from 74% to 59%, since 1999. So you can see that the dollar, as a global power, is it's decreasing. You see more and more countries trading in yuan and their local
Hmm.
currencies. A lot of countries with bilateral agreements. A lot of new agreements in the past year or two as well. So, um, we see that the dollar is losing its influence, and so it's good to protect yourself.
Are the dollars days numbered?
I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but it's going in that direction, and so the value is not going to disappear overnight. Uh, I mean, it always depends on who's in power, right? So there's a lot of factors, but that's why blockchain is good, because it's what they call trustless, right? It's a trustless system, so you don't have to trust anyone to manage, the currency correctly, or so that's why it's a good hedge. But I hope the dollar is not going anywhere soon, but it's definitely losing its value over time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I do like that factor that it takes out that trust. Trust is good. There is a certain amount of trust that we need when we're doing our business and interactions throughout our lives. But yeah, if you can take that out of it, especially when it comes to your money and especially when it comes to your retirement money, that's great. That is
Exactly.
that's very attractive compared
Yeah.
to the banks. And they have terrible PR now. There have been tons of bank closures over the last year, and some of the big dogs. So I can only imagine what it's doing to the mid-size and smaller banks and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah, I mean the regional banks have lost a lot of them have lost probably about half of their value in the past 2 years, right? You look at like Comerica, U.S. Bank Corp, Western Alliance Bank, Valley National Bank. These are top 50 regional banks. They've lost half of their market value, and a lot of that is because of commercial real estate loans, right? Commercial real estate's taking a beating, and 70% of those loans are in regional banks. So it's a big risk.
huge. Do you think this will kind of lead to runs on the bank? That conjures thoughts of the
It's
Great Depression, 1929. Do you think that could
Yeah,
happen?
I think it's very possible. The Fed was talking about various ways to guard against that. I don't know if I'm not an economist, so it's hard to say if those will be effective methods. I think they're preparing for it, but it's possible that they won't be in a position to bail them out. So better safe than sorry. So that's why I make sure I'm protected.
Yeah, and speaking of the bailouts, we were talking about this a little bit before, and you mentioned, you're more from the tech background. You mentioned you're not an economist, but if these institutions were to fail, what does that look like for the people who have invested in Bitcoin? Does that mean, the bank's loss, those institutions' loss? Is it going to be their gain, your gain? What does that look like for your part of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be, a gain in terms of our business and in terms of, whoever has Bitcoin is going to gain. Depends how much of the portfolio is in Bitcoin. But, when the bank failures happened last year, yeah, our business definitely shot up. Precious metals shot up. I mean, yeah, the business boomed, right? More than doubled. And so in that case, we would do well, but I wouldn't wish that still because it hurts us in other areas.
Yeah, that would hurt a lot of people. But if, like you said, if a considerable amount of your portfolio is Bitcoin, then that's going to be good for you.
Yeah, and I think we would recover eventually. I mean, if the big banks failed, probably the smaller ones would step in. There's a lot of more digital banks coming out, and uh, we probably, yeah, we would have a little bit of a crisis. We wouldn't be able to spend money, but those that have Bitcoin would be better off than those that don't.
Mhm.
Um, they would be ahead, basically.
Yeah, I think it would be initially it would be a big tidal wave. It would be we've never had that before. We've never had big institutions like that fail. So yeah, I think it would be of a bit of a tidal wave, but like a tidal wave, the waters would recede and things would get back to normal. People would be rebuild. Like you mentioned, those smaller banks would fill that void. So I think that initial ripping off of the band-aid would definitely be worth it in the long run. And
Yeah,
it's
and
for
and I think in that case, blockchain and like decentralized finance, which is basically the practice of replacing traditional financial instruments with blockchain-based applications, like I think that would accelerate the adoption of those things.
Mhm.
Um, so, of course, I don't wish for this to happen, but just like when COVID happened, digital adoption increased. Same kind of thing. From this crisis, it would we would adapt, right?
Mhm.
It's like you said, ripping off the band-aid.
And do you think this would pave the way for banks to keep the interest rates at 5%? Because right now they're above that, which really sucks. But do
Yeah.
you think that would help?
Um, I think right now it's at 5% because the interest rates are high, but I think banks do what's good for them, and eventually they will lower that. You know, when the Fed rate goes down, they'll probably lower it eventually.
Hmm.
But yeah, right now and there's a lot of banks closing branches because they want to go more digital. Just because there's fewer people going into banks now, so there's no need for as many branches, and so that allows them to give better rates, uh, but eventually they will lower it.
Yeah, I think competition across all businesses is good. If those banks were to fail that's terrible for them, and of course their employees and their families and stuff like that. But that's kind of the nature of the business. That's the risk you take when you have a business. And there were millions of Americans whose businesses have failed over the years, and the government never stepped in, with a blank check to keep them afloat. So it's kind of the more cold-hearted end of the business. But hey, if you can't make it, you can't make it. Adapt and
Yeah,
overcome if you can. Not,
and it would affect individuals as well. But I would just say make sure you stay underneath that 250,000 FDIC insured amount. Spread your money out across multiple banks, and you should be more protected.
And what is your Bitcoin outlook? How do you think this is going to be? Say over the next 5 years. That can go by like that. So what is
Yeah.
that looking like?
Well, now that the Bitcoin ETF was approved in January, just a month and a half ago, my outlook for the price is even better because you have these institutional inflows now, over 5 billion just in the past month flowing in, and that's why the price has gone up so much. Um, the price is really high today. It's above 56,000. I mean, close to the all-time high. It hasn't been this high since December of 2021. So um, I think we'll continue. I think there might be a correction in the short term. But with the Bitcoin halving event coming up, and for those that don't know what that is, it's basically the rate in which the supply increases is halved, right? So it gets decreased by half. So miners are basically their rewards are half starting about April of this year. So that is good for the price long term. And also there's other indicators. There's technical indicators. There's something called RSI, relative strength indicator, that's used for stocks, and that just measures the momentum of a stock. And it got above 80 about a month ago. And whenever that happens, historically, the stock it increases by 50% in the next 60 days. So not to say that that's going to happen with Bitcoin, but it's not far off. I mean, we're up 25% already this year. So I definitely think, my opinion, not advice, that we're going to hit a new all-time high this year with Bitcoin. And long term, I mean, I'm bullish. There's definitely, I just read an article by Kathy Wood of ARK Investments. She's very optimistic. She thinks it's going to go up to like 2.2 million or something. But her analysts actually use some logic, and basically they estimate that if the total assets, like if 19% of total assets are invested in Bitcoin, which is what they recommend. That's a bit high, but that means that the value of Bitcoin will go up to 2.2 million. But if you just take 1% of that, which is very realistic, the value will go up to 120,000. If you take 4%, it's something like 550,000. So basically, now that we have these ETFs, right, you have a $20 trillion market that's been opened up to Bitcoin.
Damn.
So that's it's not unrealistic to get to those numbers, I think. And
Wow.
Ethereum is also very good to look into now, because it's the second largest cryptocurrency, and ETFs are around the corner. I mean, analysts say there's a 50% chance of an ETF approval in May, and pretty much a certainty by the end of the year. And we saw what happened with Bitcoin, right? The price skyrocketed 100% because of that. So yeah, I think if you're looking to get into it, definitely look into Ethereum as well.
Okay, so May, you mentioned some approvals coming in May. It was approved in January.
Potentially.
What do you?
Yeah.
But what do you mean by approvals? What was approved and by who?
Yeah. So basically, these big asset managers like BlackRock, Fidelity, they apply to create an ETF. They apply with the SEC, right? They have to be approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so, even though the Security and Exchange Commission is really anti-crypto, they had to approve the Bitcoin ETF in January, because they have a certain deadline by law that they have to respond yes or no to these applications. And in the past, they responded no, but the court ruled that they didn't have a good reason to deny it. So they ended up approving it. It was a battle that took years. And now they paved the way for an approval of an Ethereum ETF. So an ETF is an exchange traded fund. If you don't know what that is, it's basically usually holds like a basket of assets. In this case, a Bitcoin ETF holds a certain amount of Bitcoin in it, and so this is a way for people to invest without actually holding Bitcoin. But it basically tracks the performance of Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin doubles, your investment can double, but you're not actually buying Bitcoin. So it's supposed to be easier and it's more accessible to people with investment accounts, right? To institutional investors, because they already have an account. Now all they have to do is tell their broker or click a button, and they can, basically take advantage of Bitcoin performance. And so, basically, the Ethereum is next to be approved.
And I would assume with the approval from the SEC in January, it's probably a slam dunk that it's going to be approved. That Ethereum is going to be approved in May.
Yeah, it's a high
makes
probability.
sense.
It's not necessarily a slam dunk, but it is pretty probable that it will happen. If not in May, then by the end of the year.
Okay, that's all that's happening pretty quickly. Even the end of the year, that's
Yeah, and
progressing
that's what
pretty
you
quickly.
see. Yeah, that's what you see. Ethereum, kind of lately has been growing at a faster rate than Bitcoin because of that. And also, there's a big upgrade. So I don't know how much your viewers know about cryptocurrency, but each cryptocurrency has a different utility. Bitcoin stores value, but then you have other tokens like Ethereum, which you can basically use that network to build applications in a decentralized way. So I can build like a lending application where I can loan you money directly without a bank in the middle, and then I can take most of the interest for myself, right? You can build that with Ethereum, but other cryptocurrencies have all kinds of different utility. They're essentially cryptocurrencies are like stocks. It's like you have a company behind a stock, and that company is producing a product for a certain market. It's the same way with cryptocurrency, right? And so yeah, it's very very interesting. But yeah, I think it's very worth looking into Ethereum and oh, so the point I was trying to make is with Ethereum too is that uh, the upgrade is going to make it actually scalable. Right now, you can't replace like a Visa with Ethereum, right? If you wanted to basically replicate Visa and have a payment system that operates on the scale that Visa does, you wouldn't be able to do that with Ethereum because it's too slow. But with this upgrade that's coming up this year, now it will be possible. And so that basically is going to take it mainstream, and that's another very kind of bullish event, um, and one of the reasons why Ethereum is increasing.
Okay. Are there any apps that you would recommend? Because of course I've heard of the Bitcoin app, Doge Wallet, and some other ones. Are there any apps that you would recommend? For people to check in on what's going on, on the go, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, mydigitalmoney.com, of course. So that's one way, you can look at the cryptocurrencies we have in our platform, but you can also just look at prices in general. Even if you
Okay.
don't have an account, you can look at prices of cryptocurrencies on there. Um, like actual having wallets, I'd say it's for more tech savvy people. I think technology will improve over time. But for now, like to manage your own wallet is complex. And if you lose your passphrase, you risk losing your crypto. And so that's why I recommend still a third party like My Digital Money,
Mhm.
but it does it in a safer way than like a Coinbase or other platforms that are basically saying that you're an unsecured creditor in a case of bankruptcy, right? Um, so yeah, I would. That's basically what I would recommend. Yeah, My Digital Money. I'm not biased at all.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. And nor
But we
should you
provide a
be.
lot of information. You can check out our YouTube channel, and the thing is, we have people in the U.S. that will pick up the phone. So if you have questions, even just as simple as what is Bitcoin, you can call us.
Yeah, customer service is huge, and I like to hear that it's U.S. based, so that way they're easy to not only easy to speak to, but they understand. They live in this country too. They understand what's
Yeah,
going on,
and
and I'm
and also just to be honest with you about your previous question, like I do check out CoinDesk.com a lot for news. That's like one of the popular crypto websites that they do a lot of interviews with different CEOs, and uh, if you want to stay up to date on news, that's another good source.
Okay. Well, I have mydigitalmoney.com pulled up right now on my phone, so I will be looking into all of that stuff. And I can tell you by looking at the website, very easy to navigate, uh, fun to navigate. You know, some websites you just look at them like, ugh, I don't want to deal with that. But this, I like the way it's set up, the graphs and stuff, the subheads and everything, and the
Yeah,
get your
and you
free
can
guide
open a
open.
practice account too if you want to
Yeah,
just play around with it. You don't need to actually fund it. You can open an account. You'll see $50,000 in cash. Don't get too excited because it's fake money, but you can practice and see what you would do. How you
mhm.
would perform in the real market.
That's a great idea. I think that's a great idea to have that, so people can kind of test it out and learn how it works before they get started on it. That's a
Yeah,
brilliant idea.
definitely.
So, what are some of the what do you do? What is your, I mean, not to get too personal, but what are you doing personally? What are you looking at? What are the different stocks that you look at? What do you think looks good?
Yeah, I mean, I mainly stick in crypto now and real estate. Although don't get into commercial real estate right now, but I don't think real estate is good right now. But when it was good, that's when I get in and I hold it. But yeah, I look at a lot of cryptocurrencies that solve important problems. So Chainlink is something I invest in because it provides real world data to smart contracts. So it makes smarter applications on top of the blockchain, and then you can kind of basically accelerate adoption of this industry. And so Chainlink is good, and then Polkadot is another one because it connects all these different disparate blockchains together. So when you have a wallet, you see that it's pretty hard to manage because you have to always swap to different currencies, and you have to bridge them between different blockchains. There's different things you have to do because they're all disconnected from each other. There's a bunch of different blockchains. So this particular crypto, basically, it aims to connect them together, right? It's like, if you look at Apple and Samsung, right, with the two smartphones. Imagine if they couldn't talk to each other. So I can only call people that have an iPhone, right? That's what it's like right
Mhm.
now. You can only call people that have an iPhone. You can't call someone that has an Android. Well, Polkadot basically makes it so that you can call someone that has an Android. So uh, that's an important problem to solve, and so yeah, so I invest in that. And that those are things that are still early on. So that's why I invest in them because obviously if you bought Bitcoin when it was early on, the price of what a pizza was back then, you have like $100 million now. So I still
Right.
look for those opportunities, but for the most part, I stick within Bitcoin and Ethereum, and maybe a few of the other top tens, and then I try to invest in those like earlier ones too.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Right.
but
And I don't.
stock wise, I always invest in the big tech companies. I got in a little bit earlier, like Amazon and Netflix and all the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis.
Now, is there a formula to kind of sniffing out the ones that are good to kind of get in early, like you said, or is it just there's got to be some luck, some talent, some foresight. How would somebody kind of look out for those ones to get in on early?
Yeah, I mean, it's just research. It's maybe finding some analysts that you really have a good track record, that you trust, and listening to them if you don't have the time to do the research yourself. Um, But yeah, for me, I'm not, a Wall Street guy. I never, invested a lot in stocks. So I'm not big on the technical analysis. I more go with like companies that I believe in. If it's something that, I like to use and I see that, others like to use, that there's a market for it. I put my business hat on. I went to business school. So I kind of look at it from that lens of like, is there a market? Is there a need? Um, and does this company, fulfill that need in a good way? And it's just as simple as that for me. That's not necessarily the best way, I'm sure, to invest, but it's worked for me so far.
I mean, yeah,
Uh,
you're in the know. I would say you know a thing or two about digital currency. So I think
yeah, digital
mimicking
currencies, yes, yeah.
I think mimicking your steps would be a good idea. And you
Yeah,
went to business.
and you know what? It all depends on your risk tolerance too, and what your goals are. I'm investing for the long haul with crypto, right? And so, while it's risky in general, in my view, it's not very risky if you're looking at a long horizon, right? You look at Bitcoin; it's just a series of higher lows, and if you're willing to hold your money there for 5 years plus, then I don't see it, as being that risky. Um, but if it's you need to earn money on a day-to-day basis, then that's a different story, right? So it really depends on your goals, your tolerance for risk, and all of that, right? If you have a higher tolerance, maybe you make crypto 20% of your portfolio. If you don't, then make it 1 or 2%, right? So it really depends.
Okay. And you went to UCLA. So how deep is your hatred for USC?
It depends. Did you go to USC?
No, no, no. I did it. I was just, but I know you went there, and I know you guys are crosstown rivals to say the least.
Yeah, it's not deep. I have a lot of friends that went to USC. I think when I was in college, it was deeper because I would go to the games. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, I respect it. I respect USC, but UCLA is still much better academically, especially in engineering.
Yeah, and again, you're not biased at
Not
all.
biased at all. No.
And before we close, there's something I was thinking about, and then I was looking on the website and I saw it. So it says crypto investment guide. So is that going to be like before you get in? Because I was thinking, what's something we can read, something people can see to kind of let them know what's going on. And then I saw this, so I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is kind of your intro into crypto and what's going on, what to look for, and kind of somebody like myself who would know nothing about it but wants to get involved in it. Here's what you need to read before you get started. Am I correct in
Absolutely.
assuming that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we have a free crypto guide, just how to get started, tips. That is a good starting point for sure. And you just go on mydigitalmoney.com, and you can click on free guide and basically download it.
Good. That's because that's exactly what I was hoping for, because I don't want to go into it completely blind, but if there's something I can read up on to kind of set you
Yeah.
up so you
And
don't show up
there's so
unprepared.
much information out there, it's hard to distill. So that's the point of this guide, is to kind of make it easier
Mhm.
for you, just tell you kind of what you need to know. Uh, and from there, there's a plethora of information on our site, and anywhere really. But yeah, it's a very, very good starting point. Good point.
Okay. Well, great. So mydigitalmoney.com is the YouTube channel under the same name.
It is. It does have some numbers on it. I'll tell you what it is right now, because we couldn't get that was taken. But so my digital
Mm.
money. So it's at my digital money 7178.
Okay. If you could email me a link to
I
that, I'll
will.
put it in the description box, and I'll also put a link to the website, mydigitalmoney.com, so people can see what you guys are all about, see what Bitcoin and ETFs are all about, and make sure that they read crypto investment guide, so it kind of lets you know and informs you a little bit of what goes on and
Yeah,
how
and
it works.
if anyone wants to call us, the number is 833-636-2008. So we'll pick up the phone during work and business hours. So you can feel free to give us a call as well.
Okay. Yeah, I will put the links to everything in there, how to contact you guys, how to get to your YouTube channel. Are there any other platforms that you guys are on?
I think those are the main ones.
Okay.
We are on all the social media channels, but I think those are a good start.
Perfect. So those will all be in the description box. You guys know how to use that. Click, click, click. It will take you to mydigitalmoney.com. And not only are you running a great business, as I mentioned before, you're partnered with Colin Plume at Noble Gold Investments, but you have a great story. Coming here from another country and creating the American dream, working hard, going to school, as you say, the better of the two in Los Angeles. UCLA is better than USC academically, but you came here and made something very successful out of yourself, for your family, and that's a wonderful story. So if nothing else, support somebody who did it right, who created something that's going to help people. Uh, be okay when you retire, because apparently $1 million is only going to last you 10 years, which is an atrocity. So please get to mydigitalmoney.com, set yourself up, your family up for the future. Take that trust factor out of it, let the numbers do what they do, and hopefully put you in a very comfortable position when you decide to hang it up, whatever that may be. Guy Gotslak, I thank you for your time.
Thank you
appreciate
for having me.
it. My pleasure. And this won't be the last time. Hopefully I'll have some stuff set up, to where I can ask you some more personalized questions for my portfolio. But I thank you, man, for being here. I thank you for your time. Make sure you guys go to mydigitalmoney.com. All the information, the website, the YouTube channel, how to get in touch with them is in the description section. So click on that. And until the next time, people, we are out.